Welcome to the Rant Live. So last night was the Field of Dreams game in Dyersville, Iowa, it's pretty cool. I like that they do that. It's a good vibe, and I grew up in Omaha, so I kind of can relate to the cornfield thing. But what did you think about the Harry Carey hologram?
Oh man,
I like the effort. I mean,
yeah,
it was a Reds home game first off, and so it was kind of weird that they did a Harry Carey singing the stretch. But I like the effort. A for effort for sure, but it kind of it didn't look at all like Harry Carey.
It looked like somebody cosplaying Harry Carey, and not like Will Ferrell or Ryan Dempster.
Then why not get somebody to like actually do it like Will Ferrell,
right? Or just do the video of Harry Carey like they do at Cubs games. It was one of those things that I'm sure they had enough money invested into it that it was too late for them to back away once it had already been set in motion. But it's like, just because you can does not mean you should. You know what I mean? Like, that's
for the day.
Yeah, that was and I think somebody had that. It was like the line for Jurassic Park or what's that from? He's like, they got so obsessed with wondering whether they could that they didn't stop to think about whether they should, or whatever the case. It's the same thought. But yeah, and the funny thing was, like, I was on a webinar at the time. It was like one of those through that Mustard thing we do with Tom House. And it was this thing about like mental skills. So I was kind of like watching the game and watching this, and I actually missed it. I missed it happening live, which I'm kind of happy about, because like that probably would have been all I was thinking about at the time.
It was all you could think about. Like,
I saw the pictures like as soon as it popped up, and I was like, "Whoa, that's something." Yeah. So
it looked like a different guy.
Yeah.
It kind of looked like a young John Miller almost, with grayer hair.
I could see that. There's like the grandpa from 16 Candles was another one somebody brought up. It was like, with the technology they have, like, if you ever see those deep fake videos that they have, people like, well, they'll show somebody, there's like one dude who does it like Tom Cruise, and it looks like Tom. I mean, you could tell if you're like, you're looking at it close, but why couldn't they just, they couldn't have done something better with a video of Harry Carey and made that off of it. It looked like somebody's interpretation, like an approximation of Harry Carey.
Yeah, like somebody who had never seen Harry Carey but was told what Harry Carey looked like. Yeah.
Or like an artist, okay, I saw this, but even then, I was going to say, like, the art that they can do right now, it just seemed like, why even go to that, right? And I get it, right? It's like the old dead ball players and their ghosts or whatever, and that's kind of the thing. But when that's the one thing out of everything else they did, I don't know that there's anything else that anyone's complaining about or fixating on or whatever. Like, that seemed to be the one facet of the entire
Rodriguez
thing.
Not getting with the program. He had the suit on and just a normal suit, whereas Poppy had like the hat, the old timer hat,
the old school, like the tweed look and all that.
Like,
but
he was playing it up.
Thankfully, I saw zero of A-Rod. Like, we were doing some stuff ahead of time. Good. Yeah, so I didn't see like I saw them, walking out of the cornfield. I saw that part of the pregame, but I didn't see the whole, the studio driven stuff or the people from their studio show. And, and some of that stuff can be kind of fun. But to me, it's the atmosphere itself of the ballpark and all the other, the novelty of that, I think, makes it all play up pretty nicely. And it's impressive because it's one of the few things that Major League Baseball actually does really well in terms of their marketing and execution. There's so many other things they've screwed up just with every time Rob Manfred opens his mouth, or the stuff with the baseballs, or, trying to the messaging around how they're trying to change different things with pace of play. Like, none of it works well, but this has worked very, very well across a number of different levels. So kudos to them for doing it. And again, last year's game was awesome. There won't be a game there next year, maybe in the future. But
yeah, we were talking about that, and I sent you a text that said the land around the Field of Dreams site is being converted to an $80 million youth sports complex, which I think is cool. I mean, I'm always all for, youth sports, especially kind of little league baseball type stuff. But 9 fields, an indoor facility, team dorms, a hotel, an RV park, and trails. And it said construction will keep the game away next year, but the complex is set to be open by 2025. And then there's pictures. You guys can go in and see that. It's kind of all over the internet. But interesting. Like, I don't know. Is that good? Is that bad? I'm not against it. I think it's cool, but
yeah, I mean, and they've got facilities like that all over the place too. I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere. But and I know there's a facility similar to that. Like there's one in Branson, the youth baseball facility, where each of the fields is modeled after. Like there's one that's like Fenway, and one that looks like Wrigley, and one that's like Yankee Stadium. And they do that. They have the player dorms and locker rooms. Too. Yeah, there's a lot of those. I think there's a point at which, and that's owned, the group that's doing that, right, is owned by Frank Thomas, the Big Hurt, like that Frank Thomas. And so if again, they're not doing things. I'm not acting as if MLB is some altruistic organization and that they're not doing this thing as a way to make money. But at the same time, like they're playing off of that. I think there comes a point at which you can go too commercial with things. And that's my fear, is like it's a one-time thing. It's a one day, one game, right? It's not like every team plays. I think the Field of Dreams game would get really played in a bad way, right? I'm using it would get played out if, say, you did it every month, or if every major rivalry, like if the Red Sox and Yankees played there this week, and then the Cubs and Cardinals played there next week, and that you can only, the point is that it's one thing. And I know this other stuff would be not MLB based, but I struggle with it.
It's not an MLB facility. It's not being funded by Major League Baseball.
It's a separate deal.
It is. It's kind of like it's like a lot of the pictures, like Jordan Bastian had pictures of him playing catch with his son, and there were a lot of pictures of dads playing catch with their kids or moms playing catch with their kids, and so that's cool, right? It's like a special moment because you go there once, and there's like that one Field of Dreams, and so it's a rare experience. But when you commercialize it, and you've got little league fields there, and you're having tournaments and stuff like that there, it kind of makes it less of a special place in that regard. It's because like kids are going there. It's not like playing catch there isn't a big novel thing anymore because there's multiple fields and an RV park and all this.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just, I think it takes some of this kind of uniqueness away from it for sure. But I still think it's a cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's neat. And would I turn down the opportunity? I've never been out there. I mean, everybody says it's just, and I think that's the thing is like, I don't remember if it was Johnny Bench that said it last night on the broadcast, or somebody that like, you don't realize it's a bucket list thing until you go. And so I do think there's a part of that to where once it becomes uber commercial, it's already very commercialized, right? But there's this place up by us called Grand Park, and it is this massive sprawling complex of like dozens of baseball fields, soccer fields, lacrosse, football. It's massive, right? The whole point is to have as many games, as many tournaments, as many teams, and charge as much as possible. And there are all these turf fields, right? So you can play there. And I get it, and that's like it's this cool place, but obviously not. It was just built there out on its own. But with this, and I envision a similar type of not to that size, but now you have this again massive facility, and it's immediately adjacent now to the house and the field. And to your point, it's kind of cool to go and play catch, not have a catch, but play catch with the cornfield right out behind you. But in this case, if it's like 3 rows of corn, and then because at some point Right now, I mean, and hold on, I need to address this too real quick. My biggest gripe with it, and I love the movie, but my biggest gripe with it, we were farmers growing up, is it like he was going to go bankrupt because, now granted he had to put a lot of money into building the field, but because he plowed under like an acre or two of corn, like that's what was going to bankrupt him, right? Like, come on, dude, that is a fraction of the percentage of what you would need to be farming in order to subsist anyway. And clearly we never actually saw him doing any farming. I don't know how he got any work done. The farming part of it bothered me as a farmer. But if you go out there, and that's the whole point of this corn, you got like, here's a cool ball field, 2 rows of corn, and now this massive youth sports complex is like right on the other side of it. Like you lost, right? You said, I said this about the Cubs. This is my problem with this. You took this cool thing, Wrigley Field, and there's still a lot of cool stuff about it, but they said, well, fans will come for Wrigley Field, and you add the video boards, and you renovate this, and you buy the rooftops, and you make those corporate. Now you add a sports book, and now you add this comp. Like, okay, is it really? They
weren't wrong though.
No, I mean, they've made money, or they've tried to, but people have come. But to me, what I'm talking about is they said, oh, people love this Wrigley Field experience. Let's try to do what we can and make that bigger and make it better. But like, the point wasn't that we wanted it to be bigger and better. And there are things that I enjoy about more modern amenities, certainly. But in this same thing, it's like, ooh, people love this Field of Dreams things. All the nostalgia. It's like, you can't get nostalgic over a brand new sports complex. That's not nostalgic anymore. Being adjacent to the nostalgia, maybe. I don't like it when people see
it's a
something
revenue opportunity.
Good.
I mean, people aren't doing it. They're not doing it to not make money.
Right. Oh no. Big Hurt wants to sell Big Hurt beer. You know, that's what Frank Thomas is there to do. I just like, I don't like seeing nostalgia commercialized to the extent that it could jeopardize losing a lot of that. That's where, among all the things that have happened at Wrigley Field, I don't really have a problem with them, except for the sports book. Like that just I don't like it. I don't like that part of it. Because I feel like it is a group of people who saw from the outsiders who themselves do not care for and do not experience the depth of fandom, right? And I want to be careful here. I don't care how you fan, but I'm saying they aren't Cubs fans. They see the opportunity of Cubs fandom, and then they took that, and then, like you said about Harry Carey, it was like you described to an artist what he looked like, and then they rendered that. Well, this is like, Crane Kenny and people on the business side and Tom Ricketts saying, ooh, I've sat in the bleachers at Wrigley. I see how people enjoy that. I'm now going to try to replicate and mass produce that experience and that feeling. But when it's being done without the same heart that it would require, it's you lose a lot in the process. You run the risk at some point of running out of whatever that original that original blood that ran through it was making it happen. You dilute it so much that it's not the same thing anymore. So I don't know. I'm probably overreacting, but
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what it'll be like when they do, assuming they do the Field of Dream games in 2025 when it's complete. Well, 2025, that seems like it's a ways away, but
24 it could be there. It won't be there in 23. It could be back in 24
years. Yeah, when they actually have it completed, like what it will be like. Will there be a Little League tournament around? I mean, the Little League World Series is going on right now, right? I mean, not the World Series, but the qualifiers. We were just texting about that earlier. And so there's regionals that are going on. I mean, it's possible they could try to have some games there, maybe a regional or something like that. And that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Midwest.
Got one. I mean, there's one like right up the road for me. The central region is like that happens like 10 miles. If that, maybe 5.
Nice.
It's like I said, it's right up the road. Been by there in my hometown. The team was in that regional. I don't think they got beat. They got eliminated by, I think, the Michigan team. I don't know if they ended up winning it all last year. They had that left-handed kid who just struck everybody out. But yeah, so I mean, it's definitely and the youth sports industrial complex, man, is boy. It is booming. So
Yeah,
I mean, they know they'll make money off of it. You know, I don't know how much they're charging teams to come out there and play, but you can definitely always get people to get in there and spend some money on kids playing sports. I'll guarantee that, just because I know I'm one of them. So
yep. Yep. So the Cubs won the game last night. It was good. They jumped out to an early 3-0 lead and just kind of never looked back. I mean, they gave up a couple runs in the 7th inning. But I was surprised there were no home runs. I was kind of disappointed there were no home runs. I mean, it was funny that they brought that up during the broadcast, and they started talking about how there were, I think, 7 home runs last year or something like that, and how it was such a high scoring game and how they were surprised. And they started talking about the humidity and the temperature and this, that, and the other thing. And then like the parting comment was, oh yeah. And well, it was the Yankees and the White Sox last year, and those guys are big. And like, yeah, they're just better because if you haven't noticed, the Cubs and the Reds are kind of like in last place. And the Yankees and the Red Sox are not the Red Sox, the White Sox were last year pretty big, kind of both, I think, in first, right? I think the White Sox, it's hard to remember because the White Sox are so bad this year. And I say that on purpose to rub it into any people who like the White Sox who are listening right now. So if you are, this is a Cubs podcast.
Yeah, if you are, you're in the wrong place, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a little disappointing. There weren't even really any that it wasn't like there were any wall scrapers or any that, yeah, I mean, the Cubs had a couple of nice extra base hits in there, right? And they had some solid base running at times. But
good to see.
That's kind of the whole fun of it, is hitting a home run out into the corn, right? Like that's part of the cool deal there. And of course, last year, again, as you mentioned, there were several of them, and they were also playing with the bouncy balls last year, I think. And then, Tim Anderson launching a walk-off into the corn to end the game. Like, you can't get much more perfect than that. So I think
that was
coming
awesome.
off of that, it would have been impossible to replicate, but it was good. That was what was nice, man, is watching the Cubs jump out to an early lead and then watch Drew Smyly just get out there and deal. And it looked for a while there, it was like he was just like throwing all breaking and off speed, and then like he'd mix in a fastball every once in a while. But there were times where you just go like curveball.
There were several pitches though that looked like they were strikes. I don't know if the camera was set up weird or what it was, but I was like,
and not having the box is odd, because I'm so used to having that, and I don't know if that was a conscious choice of like, well, it's old school, we're not going to put the box on there, but there was like Patrick Wisdom. The one that really stood out to me was he drew a walk on a slider, and I'm watching that thing in real time. I'm like, that was a strike. And
yeah.
I was like, still a strike. Like, went over the corner, and then even when it broke, because it broke primarily down, it was a tight one, and boy, and so again, I don't know if that was because of the angle that they had. That there were several, and Smyly had a bunch of them too. It was mostly, and they had all right-handed batters against Smyly, so mostly that outside corner to righties. And it could have been a blind spot for the ump. I don't know. But there were a lot that I did not really think. I was like, oh, that's a ball? Okay, good on you. But that's where I wonder, again, where that was, because if you looked at and they had a lefty, the Reds did, and when the Cubs all went down looking, what was that, the second inning, third inning? He got like 3 backwards Ks, and those were all on inside pitches to right-handed batters. So it looked as if the zone, right, was just shifted over about 3 inches more. So, again, that could have been a camera angle thing and the way we were seeing it, but it certainly looked to me like the pitchers were getting inside strikes on lefties, but not getting the outside corner. So that was a little bit odd. And not having the actual zone there. Because how many times do we see? I'm so used to seeing it, and you can look at it, and then they'll do that reverse thing where they'll flip it, and they'll show the ball coming through, and that one clipped the corner. With the way they do it, almost like a tennis broadcast. So I don't know. I wonder if Smyly would have gotten even better results had that zone been a little bit wider for him on the outside.
Yeah. And Nick Madrigal, we were talking about Nick Madrigal in our last episode, and I was wondering like what his utility was on the team, and it's like he almost heard me talking, because he said, "Oh, here, take this," and he's actually looked really good lately. I mean, I think he had a stolen base last night, right?
Yeah.
Had 3 for 5. Just looking solid, looking really good. So man,
Yeah.
way
And
to
I
prove
think
me
it's
wrong.
his
I love it.
third multi-hit game since he's been back. And you know, and as someone pointed out to me, you know, they're like, yeah, but they all look like little bleeders, or they're just finding holes. But I'm like,
he's driving
you
the
know,
ball.
my response to that was like,
He's
hitting it hard enough to get it through there, and that's the thing. He doesn't have a ton of power. He's not going to hit it 350 feet almost ever, right? He can get it out of there, but that's always been his game. He's a slap singles hitter, and that's the whole thing, though. But if you can use the entire field, right, then you can more readily find it. And look, I'd much rather see people hit it in the air. A hard line drive is a much better opportunity to get a hit than a ground ball. But a hard ground ball that's placed well is still going to get through. And as we talked about, I said his value is, and I overstated a little bit, but you know, I said he's got to bat 350, but he does have to bat north of 300 really to have much value, because
he's batting
they are all
400 since he's batting 400 in the 7 games since he's returned. He's got a 500 BABIP. Which is not going to last, and he's got a 167 WRC plus. So you know, all good things. A 478 on base percentage and a 450 slugging, which is actually higher than you'd expect from him, but that'll probably come down. Yeah, but he's looked good. I mean, obviously, it's such a small sample size. You know, 7 games. Give it some time to play out. If we'll see how he ends August and September, but good things coming from him. And just if you want to stay on the offensive side of things, who do you think, since the All-Star break, who has the highest WRC plus on the Cubs?
Nico Horner. I can't even speak. Nico Horner.
It is not Nico Horner. In fact, Nico Horner isn't even in the top 5. It is, man. Believe it or not. Yeah, it is Nelson Velasquez.
Yeah. Okay.
He's batting 303 with an on-base percentage of 410, slugging 667. He's got a 194 WRC plus in 15 games, 4 home runs, 8 runs, 11 RBIs. He's killing it. He's killing it. And Nico's solid. Nico's got a 109 WRC plus. His average is a little lower, but he still has 2 home runs. And then next would be Nick Madrigal, but that's only 7 games. So yeah, I don't know if you can really count that, but yeah, Nelson Velasquez. And this is a guy that he's not coming out of nowhere, right? I mean, he kind of came out of nowhere last year when he was in the Arizona Fall League and he won the MVP of the league. That was kind of out of nowhere, but since he came out of nowhere last year, he has been very, very good at every level, and he's risen up through the system really quickly this year. And now he's on the big league team, and he's producing at the same level. This is a guy that, I mean, he could be a really, really good player for this team for a while, for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, they got a lot of those, and you know, to that extent, we look at him, we look at Chris Morel. You know, guys who, and Morel, you know, outside of a few at-bats at AAA last year, you know, he essentially jumped straight from AA this year. But it was really interesting, you know, and I've heard this before, but if you listen to Joey Votto talking on the broadcast, and he said Major League Baseball is the easiest level of professional baseball to actually play the game. Now, he said the game will swallow you alive if you're not mentally prepared, because it is a grind and there's a whole lot to it. And he said the biggest thing, like, if you can't time up a fastball, you're done. But he said the facilities, right? I mean, the ballparks themselves, the travel, the scouting, the coaching, all the things they have that are there to allow you and to help you to succeed are significantly better. Now, that's improving a lot at some of the minor league levels, but it's like everything is there for you. So all you've got to do is at that point, then it becomes kind of a mental game, right? And that's where it becomes important. But I think for some of these guys, right, depending on how you're doing, that's why, like, Chris Morel is better at the major league level than what he was before. Nelson Velasquez might be, you know, a former Cub now, but Scott Effross was better at the major league level than he was throughout his time in the minors. And I think a lot of that has to do with if you're able to handle the rigors of the game off the field and just all that goes into that mentally, then you're going to have a better chance of success. And I think the Cubs have done a really good job of cultivating that and actually building, we can call it the camaraderie or just the atmosphere, the chemistry, whatever you want to call that, right? But of doing a really good job of establishing an emotional and psychological support system for their players as they come up, so that I think, honestly, that in and of itself does not make you a good ball player. It's not going to make you succeed just because you're mentally tough. But that's a part of development. And if you have guys who are able to process those things, to go through and to build up their mental skills along with the physical skills, then when they do reach that highest level, I think it's much less of a shock to them. And again, kudos to them for doing that. I really do believe that's going to be part of this next wave that they have coming up, that it is going to be helpful. Again, that doesn't make a player great, but it does help them to be able to get the most out of the talent that they've got.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And it's good to see the young guys, especially someone like Nelson Velasquez, because I think when he first came up, I wouldn't say he struggled, but it took him a little while to get his first home run. And it kind of felt like, is he going to kind of catch on, or is he not? And I think he's definitely catching on, similar to Chris Morel. Morel, since the break, hasn't been great. But you feel like he's a solid part of this team going forward, as well as now Nelson Velasquez playing as well as he is. And so that's good to see.
Yeah.
On the pitching side of things, though, the Cubs, since the break, have the second lowest ERA in all of baseball, which is surprising.
Yes.
They have the second lowest 2.81 ERA, second best since the All-Star break, only behind the Dodgers.
That's pretty good.
And everyone's been pitching well. I mean, Smiley has a 2.49 ERA. He's 3-1 in 4 games. Justin Steele, listen to this. This is crazy. He has in 4 games a 1.4 ERA. I think he's got like a 12.57 K per 9. He's 1-1, a 1.4 ERA. I know I said that already. His BABIP is 373.
So he's hardly giving up any contact. But that's, like he's actually getting bad luck, and he's still at 1.4.
1.4, and his FIP is 2.76. So it shows
still
out.
really good.
Yeah. When I saw that, it was a head scratcher. Thompson, 3.06 ERA, 2-1. Stroman at 3.04 ERA, 1-0 in 4 games, and then Sampson has a 4.76 ERA. He's 0-2. But I mean, if that's your worst guy, I mean, and basically, you're talking about 2.49, 1.40, 3.06, and 3.04 for ERAs for these guys. And I mean, that's not like Hendricks has been injured, right? Like, so he's not even in the equation at all. You don't.
Wade Miley's still hurt.
Miley,
right? He hadn't come back yet.
And I mean, obviously, I think Smiley and Miley are both on 1-year contracts. Do either one of them have an option or anything like that?
No. And that's the other thing that's just so strange about, I mean, Smiley in particular, because he was at least somewhat healthy, right? You're kind of like, that's not like Wilson Contreras. There's no emotional tie there.
Why didn't they trade him? It just seems like, how could you not?
Feel like you could have gotten something. But there again, I think it does go back to what do you get in return for, possibly having to displace someone. Although if it's a 1-for-1, you're not displacing anyone off there.
If you get a minor leaguer, just one minor leaguer back for Smiley, and it's better than having, having him on the roster does absolutely no good right
and
now.
He's not getting a qualifying offer, so that part doesn't matter. And obviously Miley being hurt pretty much the entire year. I mean, his value was going to be next to nothing at that point, unfortunately. But I know some people think he's a guy the Cubs could extend, and because I think they really like what he brings to the table. You know, he's that sort of John Lackey-ish, just grizzled veteran guy. But there again, if you've already got the veterans without a whole lot of control in terms of Hendricks and Stroman, do you really want to add? I mean, if you're already looking at Steele and Thompson, do you really want to have mine? Now, it's entirely possible, too. They could move out to a 6-man rotation, or they could work with something on the piggyback side of things. But you have to figure, like, Caleb Killian, Hayden Wisniewski, Ben Brown, one of those three, you have to be. Adbert Alzolay is going to be back. Again, I talked about this. I think he's more of a bullpen type guy. But, it's interesting to see because I am getting more and more of a vibe, right? Especially after the Hayward news, I really feel like that. I really feel confident that they are actually going to spend on some dudes this winter, that they're really going to try to go for it. I'm getting that sense more and more.
And so, but that's the thing is that when you look at their pitching staff, I mean, obviously, we just talked about how good they're doing since the break, but you still feel like you need a power arm in there.
Yeah.
Right. And even though Steele is pitching so good lately and he's striking guys out and it's just over a couple games, though, it's you feel like you need like a John Lester guy, right? Like
give me a Jacob deGrom, baby. Let him opt out. Let's go.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I mean,
Seriously,
Shane Bieber.
Think about that.
Shane Bieber's going to be a free agent. There's some other guys to me, right?
But then who do you displace? Then you're not re-signing Smiley. You're not re-signing Miley for sure.
Oh no, hell no. But
then you got.
I don't give a shit who it is. If you get Jacob deGrom, if you have a chance to land now, I'm sure a lot of people will be like, yeah, but he's hurt. Not now, but like he gets hurt. Dude, I don't care. That's the best pitcher on the planet, flat out. Yeah. If you could put that dude in your rotation, and if you tell me this, if you had a rotation of deGrom and in whatever order you want to put them, let's go deGrom, Steele, Stroman, Thompson, Hendricks. You tell me that is not a very that rotation can take you to the lead of the division, even if you don't add another hitter. If you call a couple guys up, I'm like, that's legit right there. That's legit.
Yeah, it's legit. I'm telling you, I still think they need hitters.
Oh no, they do, to really actually be.
They need some left-handed bats for sure.
Yeah. Well, I keep saying, baby, Mash Mervis, let's go. And Ortega's not the answer as a left-handed bat. I mean, you still have Happ around. He's mostly going to be batting left-handed, but they do need to get some left-handed pop for sure. That's and that was kind of like the Franmil Reyes, and somebody had actually, I don't know if you noticed it, there was a comment or a question from one of our viewers on our most recent show who had said, hey, Cleveland just DFA'd Reyes. Do you think the Cubs should try to pick him up? And then 2 hours later, they did. And I get why they did it, right? And it's the same thing. It's the same reason I said Patrick Wisdom has value. Even with a lot of swing and miss, the dude's got a ton of pop. And then, they knew Hayward wasn't coming back. But he's still right-handed, right? They can't – they need to find somebody. And that's where Mervis comes in, although I'm getting very skeptical of the fact that he gets called up this season just because of the 40-man crunch that we've kind of talked about before. So I don't think it will take a ton of moves. It'll take a lot of money, but I don't think it takes a ton of moves for the Cubs to be competitive.
Jason Hayward's is he on the 10-day IL or the 60?
He's on the 60-day now, I think.
So he's not counted against the 40-man.
Well, I don't know. Have they moved him to the 60-day? Although it feels like, and I know there's certain things, right? But this is what I said from the start. I don't know how many. I think I've mentioned a couple times on here where I was like, I don't think the knee is as bad as what they say it is. I think there's an agreement in place that you're not going to come back, right? Yeah. And I know Hoyer can't come out and say that because they would be, you're not supposed to manipulate the IL that way. But he more or less said that, right? That Jason Hayward's not going to play for us again this year, and he's not going to play next year, right? I mean, it's just kind of one of those where it's like, hey, dude, here's the deal. We need the spot. But I don't know why they haven't transferred him unless there's something else standing in the way, because it would be silly if they haven't. But
yeah, I mean, especially as you mentioned with the roster crunch, and then you could bring Mervis up.
Yeah, well, but I still don't think, but they don't even want to add him to the 40-man yet because of everybody else that they've got. Although,
but is he Rule 5 eligible?
No, he isn't. But look up and down the organization. Like they've optioned Frank Schwindel down to AAA. They optioned Rivas, and they brought him back for a day as a 27th man. But like, he's one of those who more and more, and I hate to say this, but he's looking more and more like a quad A type player all the time because he goes down to AAA and he rakes, and then he comes up and he's just really inconsistent, and then he goes back down and he rakes again, and he comes up, and hey, that would be great because left-handed hitter, but he's not going to go out and hit for a lot of power either, and that's the issue. That's the thing with Schwindel. I mean, he was never going to be a 40 home run guy, but his power was way down. And so you look at, like, when I wrote about Rivas coming up, Rivas has like a .086 ISO over his career, like 250 plate appearances. Do you know who on the Cubs has a higher ISO? And for those who maybe are not familiar with that, it's a raw measure of power. So versus slugging, right? ISO is a little bit more so a measure of raw power. Which Cub? Well, a lot of them, but if we're talking out of, I think there's like 460 players who have 250 plate appearances or more over the last 2 seasons, and like 30 of them have a lower ISO than Alfonso Rivas. So he's like 414th or something like that. It's somewhere in that neighborhood. But the player immediately above him is none other than Nicky Two Strikes. So Madrigal actually has more power than Rivas over the last 2 seasons. So make of that what you will. It's not ideal, but that's the thing. It's like, okay, he's a left-handed bat, but that's like negative power. You know what I mean? And that's where I'm looking at going, who else? Yeah, PJ Higgins can play there. Patrick Wisdom can play over there. Wisdom, absolutely not ideal. I want to see Mervis. Left-handed power. He's raked and mashed at every level of the minors that he's played at so far. He's an older guy in terms of prospect age. He's like 24, 25 now, whatever. And again, I think he's one of those dudes who gets it. I think he's one of them who would play really well at the next level. Time will tell on that. But, and they still need to go add more, but that's a very, very easy way to add left-handed power without having to try real hard.
Yeah, that would make sense. And quick question. Why did they have a 27th man for the game yesterday?
I don't know. I think because they can.
It's just random, like out of nowhere.
Well, and I think it's actually, it's because it's a neutral site for both teams, I believe. So they treat it the same way as they would having an unscheduled doubleheader, because they both have to travel. I guess I think that's the justification for it. So, I mean, but they both get a day off the following day. So it's,
Yeah, which is weird. Like, it's Friday and there's no game.
Like, why not play that here? So tell me if I'm wrong on this one. And maybe it's just because Friday other people have things to do, but I feel like give both teams Thursday off, do like events and stuff there, kind of have some photo ops and some media things on Thursday, play the game on Friday evening, right? Play the game on a Friday night, make it like a big to-do, and then, again, both of them could play. They could still go. I guess then you'd have to travel and still play. But I mean, they travel all the time and play a game the very next day, play one Friday night, and then play Saturday night back in the normal, or do a couple of games. I don't know. Maybe it's just weird because the Cubs aren't playing on a Friday. Like, there's no game on Friday. That just feels so strange to me.
Yeah, it's not good. I did want to take a quick look around the league. I mean, we had mentioned, let's just start out with the American League because it's just so funky. The White Sox, man, dude, why have they not fired their head coach?
Their what?
Their manager, whatever.
Just wondered if we were talking football or something real quick. No, because he's Reinsdorf's buddy. I mean, that's like, how? So here's what's, so my father-in-law, who's a White Sox fan, right, and is of a certain age, right, that, like, for him, I think it's like cool to see an old guy get a gig, right, because he's like 70 himself or whatever. But when it happened, we were talking about, we were out to eat dinner or whatever, and I was like, I told him I thought it was a terrible hire. I thought it was a really dumb idea.
Yes.
I thought it would backfire on him.
He was
like,
bombed in
Arizona.
No,
I like it.
He was an exec in Arizona, and he got ran out of here
because he has no idea what the hell he's doing. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. He fell asleep. But
that was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it is. It's oh man, and for a minute there, what was it, was it a month or two ago when they kind of had a hot little stretch, and somebody's like, "Oh, look, Tony's figured it out." It's like, no, man, they've got a lot of talent on that team. They should freaking win.
Race. They're 3 games out of the wild card race,
but they should be so much better than what they are.
It
he's actively lost them some games. Yeah.
It does. It feels very White Sox. It's like, the window's only open for so long. We all know how that goes. They're 500 right now, which is really underperforming based on what we expected from them. They're just not scoring any runs. I mean, they've got pretty good pitching, but I mean, they're just not scoring runs. And they've got a losing record at home. They're 25-29 at home. They actually have a winning record away from Comiskey. And yes, I did just call it Comiskey. It's just weird. It feels like they're kind of missing out on it. It's not over yet, right? They're 3.5 games back from Cleveland. So it's not over, but there's a lot of Cubs fans that are just kind of, just waiting to watch this play out, right? It's like a very slow motion car accident over there on the South Side. And,
I don't know, Tony La Russa and driving's not a good idea. But
no.
Yeah, it was just I didn't think it was a good choice to begin with, particularly for as young a team as what they had. And they still have a lot of young guys, right? They made some poor personnel decisions. They did nothing at the deadline, basically.
That was surprising.
But it sounds like from what Rick Hahn was saying that his hands were tied. That he's disappointed they weren't able to get more done. And it's like, it's one thing when you're the Cubs and you're selling, you're saying, I've got a reserve price on this. If you've ever been in an auction, right? Like if the bidding does not meet your reserve, well, then you take the thing back. You're not going to sell. Like there's a price at which I have to get this level before I'm comfortable parting with this. But if you're the Sox and you need offense, like they needed offense in the worst way. And so I don't know, again, if that was a Reinsdorf thing, probably, because he's always been really nosy and kind of doing. Yeah. I mean, he's the one that forced the hire of La Russa. That's not like it was Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams making that. So I just, at least with the Cubs, like we could say, like ownership is not actively deciding what to do. They're setting a budget, right? Ownership sets a budget that the front office has to work within. But Tom Ricketts isn't out there like saying you need to hire this manager, you need to go, do this, or you can't trade this guy. At least that certainly hasn't been my impression of it. It's rough, man. But it is funny that the Sox,
the scenes.
Yeah, but it is funny that the Sox had so much talent in their farm system. And I think that's what's being referenced down here. There was because they made all those trades, right? They got a bunch of guys back from Chris Sale and Adam Eaton and all these other deals they made, and Jose Quintana, and they had like this booming farm system. But some of those guys, Dylan Cease is obviously very, very good. But Giolito's been up and down. Eloy Jimenez can't stay healthy. They've had all these other issues with guys that that it hasn't, and that is a cautionary tale, because when we talk about it, like, oh, all these prospects. Yeah. I mean, the Sox had like their farm system looked like it was going to be the genesis of a potential dynasty for all these years. Maybe I'm overselling that a little bit, but you can't just look at it and say, oh, look at all these top ranked prospects they've got, because stuff happens and it doesn't all work out, So,
yeah. Something to keep in mind, no doubt. As we look across the rest of baseball, is there anybody out there that, granted the Cubs aren't going to make the playoffs, that doesn't want to see the Yankees Dodgers in a World Series? I don't, just because I don't like either of them. Yeah.
But,
which is fair, but you have to admit that'd be the most intriguing, certainly the most commercial.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I'm sure MLB wants that more than ever. The two biggest markets.
Well, they want
they're clearly the two best teams, right?
They,
I mean, but Houston's
definitely want the Yankees. They absolutely want the Yankees in this bad boy.
They don't want the Astros.
It's been a while. Yeah. That they don't. But yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty evident and has been for a while, and the Yankees fans want it really badly. I mean, because one way or the other, either you love those teams or you love to hate them. And so I think people will tune in because of that, right? So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see that.
I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, and we did not have a team. They tried to force feed us all the Kansas City teams. I never got the vibe there. And so it was like, and the Dodgers and the Yankees were really good when I was young in the 70s. And so I kind of started out as a Dodgers fan before I turned into a Cubs fan kind of in the 80s. And so I don't hate the Dodgers. And I've been to Dodger Stadium, and yeah, some of the people there are questionable, no doubt about it. But I dig Dodger Stadium. I mean, there are a lot of people who talk bad about Dodger Stadium, but I think for the period that it was built in, it was the late 50s, I believe, it's the third oldest stadium in all of baseball. And the next isn't even close. I think it's Coors Field. And so it's cool. It's cool. If you can get past, if you don't just absolutely hate the Dodgers and you don't get beat up going in or coming out, then there's nothing around Dodger Stadium though. It's there's in Wrigley, you can leave the Wrigley Field, and there's all sorts of bars and restaurants. There's such a unique environment there, kind of like Fenway. But Dodger Stadium, you have to pretty much drive somewhere, and so there's that. But I've been up in the club level too, and it's kind of cool. And obviously Vince Scully, that whole thing, and they have rich history. So I dig Dodger Stadium. I have not been to I've been to the old Yankee Stadium. I've never been to the new Yankee Stadium. I don't really have a desire to go.
I've been to the new and not the old. It is massive.
Yeah,
I mean, it is just a mammoth place, and it's very odd to me. It feels different. We had a cool, they have a suite, not like a fancy one up in the normal club level, but out in center field, in the batter's eye. It's like a whole restaurant place. And I've been there to a ball game. It was neat. I mean, I'm glad I went. It was cool to see. I think it was a few years ago. It was right after Soriano went there, I believe, went back there. So I got to see him play for the Yankees. So I mean, gosh, I'm trying to think of how many years ago that would have been. But long time. Been to Fenway. Enjoyed Fenway quite a bit. Except you talk about two polar opposites. Yankee Stadium feels like it holds 250,000 people.
So different.
And you go to Fenway and it feels like it holds 15,000. Fenway is tiny. At least, and I mean, you're crammed in those seats, and they're all at weird angles, and it's that whole thing. So that was those are very, to me, probably the two most contrasting. If you talk about and again, those are rivals, in the same division, that sort of thing. So when you think about that kind of experience between those two, just a stark difference, and it really kind of wild to me to experience that, and then just the areas and that sort of thing. So.
What is your, outside of Wrigley Field, what's your favorite stadium that you've been to, MLB?
Probably Pittsburgh. I really like PNC quite a bit. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I haven't been to now it's Oracle Park or whatever. I haven't been to San Francisco. San
Francisco's awesome, beautiful.
Yeah.
When you go up above and you look out kind of.
Oh yeah.
I did that before the game. It was amazing. Beautiful.
I really like Coors Field. It's not, there's nothing, the ballpark itself, not so much, but if you're there on a nice, a late summer, when it's cooler, cause you can get there's some times if you're up there, in some of those upper deck seats and the sun's blazing down in the middle of the summer, it's not really enjoyable. But I've had some great experiences there.
That's a cool area too.
Yeah. And I mean, I've actually enjoyed going to Busch Stadium, right? I've had a good time at Busch. I wouldn't put it up there among my top places, But yeah, I think Miami's weird.
Miami's very sterile. I did enjoy the game there because there was no one there.
Yeah, there's nobody there,
and it was like, yeah,
that one. That wasn't great.
It was like 5 minutes from my hotel, which is nice, like right at the airport. So if you're ever staying at the Miami airport, look to see if there's a game going on because it's super easy to go there. And
that's
I think
not bad at all.
For
Atlanta, I haven't been to the new one in Atlanta. Was that the old one in Atlanta? That was hot as hell. Atlanta in the summer.
Atlanta's just hot,
dude,
so hot.
Oh, that was rough. I'm trying to think of some other ones. I've been to the Globe Life Field, so they had Globe Life Park, which is still there, but now it's called Choctaw. That's the Rangers.
Okay.
I forget what is it Choctaw?
Yeah, it sounds like the big can-looking aluminum.
Yeah, it looks like the place where the street department would house their their trucks and plows and all that equipment. But it's right next to AT&T Stadium, right, which is where the Cowboys play, and they've got a really cool area. Like that's an okay one. I've been there twice. I was at the old one a couple times because I do a lot of business down in Dallas, and so I'm down there pretty frequently. So that's worked out pretty well.
Have you been to San Diego?
I haven't. No, I have not.
The ballpark itself is not great, but I mean, like the outfield area is really cool. They've got like a little park there for the kids and stuff. They've got like a stone brewery kind of right there attached to the stadium, and that area down there is pretty cool. So I enjoyed that. It was kind of nice to take the train down there.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good. So anyways, Cubs playing Cincinnati 2 games here. And then they come back with a series against the Nationals, who kind of felt like the Cubs should have swept that series, but they didn't.
Yeah,
they lost that game 5-6, which was just kind of weird.
Which I think is what we called. Wasn't that what we'd said on the show? Yeah. It was like they should sweep them, but they're going to end up losing a stupid game. That's like exactly. I was like, they're going to win a couple, and then they're going to lose a dumb one.
Yeah, that was a dumb one. Where just like well, they gave up. Like, did Stroman start that game?
Was that the one that he started and kind of got roughed up late?
I think I'm looking. Yeah, it was the game that he started. Yeah, he gave up 2 home runs. That's was it? Who was that guy that hit 2 home runs? Ruiz, I think, had 2 home runs. Yeah, it was a weird game.
Yeah, it was one of them where it felt like it got off the rails real quick for him there. Like things were going really well, and it was like, wasn't that the one where like they just bombed him like 5 straight dudes? It was like home run, and then like 3 doubles in a row or 2 doubles, and then an out to the wall. Like it was all like 105 really miles an hour. Yeah, he was great, and then all of a sudden it just fell off. Like, whoa, go get him!
I feel like I've cursed him twice this year because 2 separate times this year, he was having real good runs. And leading up to that game, he was having a real good run. And both times I noticed he was having a good stretch. And so in the lineup post, I wrote both of them and mentioned how good he had been like in the 5-6 games leading up to it. And then both games he got bombed.
Yeah.
So I think
that was the one I think you had texted me. You're like, are they going to go get him? Like he's getting shelled. And it was like, seriously, like it was almost like 5 pitches. I know that I don't think that was actually the case, but I mean everything all of a sudden, like they were squaring it all up. And
yeah, it was BP.
Yeah, and that was something that was kind of happening to him, early on in the season. He wasn't able to find his groove very well. So yeah, that was a little bit frustrating. But yeah, I think if he's on his game or if he's pulled a little earlier, which why would you pull him? Because he was cruising and he had been pitching very, very well since coming back off the IL. So, I get it. Yeah, hopefully I don't know. Part of it was like, well, now they're winning, but like the winning doesn't do them any good. Like what's the point?
Yeah. So the Cubs have a day off today, and then they don't have a day off for 1, 2, 3 weeks.
Woo.
3 straight weeks. They play, the 2 games at Cincinnati this weekend, the 3 games at Washington, and then at Baltimore, and then things get difficult. And this is take as many wins as we can possibly get in this next week, because we play the Cubs play 3 against the Brewers, 5 against the Cardinals at home. and then they go to the Brewers, and then they go to the Blue Jays. And it'll be interesting to see who on the Cubs is not vaccinated, because they will not be playing in Toronto. So I'm not aware of any of them that aren't, but we'll find out, I guess.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah. So it should be interesting. I don't know. We'll figure it out if we circle back on Monday, or if we just kind of wait. If we wait, yeah, it gets a little tricky in there, because the Nationals game is at 12 o'clock on Wednesday, and then the Orioles game is at 2 o'clock. And then all day games, 12 o'clock against the Nationals, 2 o'clock against the Orioles, and 1:20, 1:20, 1:20 against the Brewers. So we'll squeeze something in there. So we'll surprise everybody. Keep you guys on your toes.
Sounds good.
So cool. All right. Until then, thanks for joining us, everybody. It's been a pleasure.
See ya.